Well, thanks, Brother and Sister Jensen, for letting me come into your home. What I want to do is just take a couple quick minutes and show you what we have. Have you guys seen Living Scriptures before?
Yeah, we've seen them.
Yeah, I've seen the guys in the malls and once in a while in bookstores and that kind of thing.
That's good. Well, have you ever thought about getting Living Scriptures eventually, or?
I don't know that we've ever talked about it together. I mean, for myself, it seems kind of expensive, and our kids are growing up so much now.
Exactly.
Yeah, so how old are your kids? If you don't mind me asking, how many do you have?
We have 4.
4 kids, huh?
Yep, the youngest is 8, and that's our boy. And then we have 3 girls, and they're 12, 14, and 16.
So 3 girls, so you have dating going on in your house.
Yeah, that's a new adventure for us.
It's a little painful, isn't it?
Just about as painful as the driving.
Yeah, that driving's definitely worse. Well, we actually have an old Suburban, and my 16-year-old daughter drives that Suburban. And honestly, I fear for everybody else on the road. It's a scary, scary thing. And so you have the 4 kids, the little boy's 8, and then the 3 older daughters. Cool. So have you guys been members of the church your whole life then, or?
Sure.
Yep.
You have. You grew up in the church then, huh?
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. Well, one of the quick questions I was going to ask you is, so you have actually seen our products before then. You've seen them around at the mall and seen them and stuff. And I think
one of our neighbors has them, don't they?
Yeah, the kids have borrowed them a couple of times.
Yeah.
Oh, did you like the ones that you watched, or when they brought them home?
You know, it was a while ago, but I remember the story was good, but I can't really tell you a
Yeah, I
lot
think the
about
kids were watching when we were busy getting dinner ready or something like that, so I didn't really sit down and watch it with them.
I know the kids were really, they enjoyed it a lot. That's why they'd seen him at their friends, and that's why they borrowed him and brought him home.
No problem at all. Well, just before I get started, I just had one other quick question. What do you do for a living, Brother Jensen?
I'm an economist for the government.
Oh, cool. And so what do you do exactly? I mean, what's your area of expertise there?
Oh, water resources.
Water resources.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's cool. How you been doing that for a while then?
Yeah, about 18 years.
About 18 years. That's a long time. And do you work outside the home, or?
Nope, just work inside the home. Stay at home mom.
That's more work, isn't it?
It is.
It is. Well, cool. Well, let me just kind of show you what we've got. And I think there's a couple of reasons why people have been really excited about our program. And I think the first thing is people are just sick of all the garbage on TV. Have you guys noticed the increase in the vulgarity and violence on TV?
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely seems to always be a problem.
It does. And I think, I've got 4 kids myself, and the thing that I've really noticed is that even the commercials, the reality shows, the sitcoms, all that stuff is just peppered with stuff that, honestly, I'm just sitting there cringing the whole time it's playing. And I had an experience happen. I just share this before I get started. That was really interesting. The other day we got the show Eagle Eye. Have you guys seen that movie by chance?
Mm-hmm.
No.
You haven't? Well, it's just a PG-13 movie. I mean, there's no skin in it. But it's kind of like a suspense thriller, and the whole thing's just fast-paced and it's just moving. And honestly, when I was watching it, I didn't really see anything. They did take the Lord's name in vain a couple of times, which I personally don't like, and my kids didn't like it either. But one of the things that was really interesting is I thought, this isn't too bad of a movie. But when we got done at the end, it was about 12 o'clock at night, and my 16-year-old daughter and my 12-year-old boy, they lingered in the front room after we watched it a little bit, and I was like, what in the world? You guys need to go to bed. It's time. And my little boy says, Dad, I don't really want to go to bed right now. And I'm like, well, how come? And he says, I just don't have a good feeling. He says, can we watch a couple of Living Scripture movies so we can have a better feeling when we go to bed? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I went in and went to bed. My 16-year-old and my 12-year-old, they sat in there and watched 3 Living Scripture movies because they knew that it'd help them feel better inside. And it's probably my fault that they felt a little uncomfortable and nervous, because at our house we really monitor what our kids watch, and really it's the first movie that we've let them watch like that. We just don't let them watch movies from the outside because of all the stuff that's peppered in there. And so one of the things I want to talk about today as I go through and talk about this is the media really does affect what we think about. It affects, what our kids, how they view life. And oftentimes the movie industry, they're more worried about getting $1 through the door and how are we going to connect with all these different audiences. So like even in the children's stuff, in the Disney movies, they put, sexual innuendo in there. They put all types of different things that are more geared for adults, even in the Disney stuff. And one of the things that's really nice about Living Scriptures is you really won't have to worry about turning it off during the bad parts, because there is no bad parts. And so, just to get started, Richard Rich, who was with Disney, he did Lady and the Tramp, Fox and the Hound, Pete's Dragon, and some of those Disney movies. This is him right here. He basically has done our animation, so it's the same quality as the Disney stuff, except for it's on the scriptures. And then Orson Scott Card, he was the assistant editor of Ensign magazine. I don't know if you guys had a chance to go to any of the pageants that the church does, like the Palmyra pageant or the Nauvoo pageant. If you've had a chance to go to those, he wrote the scripts for those as well. And so he's written our scripts. And then,
I know him from science fiction. He was a pretty well-known science fiction.
Ender's Game and some of those other science fiction things that he's written. And then Lex de Azevedo, he did Saturday's Warriors, My Turn on Earth, some of those famous church plays from yesteryear. But he's the one that's done a lot of the music. And so we've spared no expense in bringing the best people in to do our product. But basically, I'll just kind of go through the series that we have. You can take a quick peek at them and see what you think. But this is the Book of Mormon series. It starts off with Nephi and the Brass Plates, Journey to the Promised Land, Abinadi and King Noah, and then it goes all the way down through the Book of Mormon series. And the last one is the Joseph Smith story. And the second series that we've done is on the New Testament. And just to give you guys just a little bit of history, what happened when we first started doing the animation, it costs about $600,000 a piece to do each DVD. And so our company was really small, and we had some audio stuff that we were out showing people, and we decided to move into the animation side. So as we started doing those, one of the things that we found is that we couldn't pay $600,000 for each DVD and just produce a whole series. So what we did is we did a couple in the Book of Mormon in this series, and we did a couple in the New Testament, and then we took those out, and then people signed up to get the rest of the series sight unseen. And so every 4 or 5 months when we'd produce another one, then we'd get going. And one of the things that's been really exciting is more and more people, as they started doing our product, they started signing up to do our Tape of the Month program. Right now we have over 60,000 people doing our Tape of the Month program. Wow. And each month they just get a video, they just pay for them as they get them. And then what we do is we take the commitment that they've made to start, and we do additional things. Well, when we did the Book of Mormon and the New Testament, people kept writing in and saying, can you do more? Can you do more? Mm-hmm. So then we started doing the second set on the New Testament. And so now we actually have 24 that go through the New Testament stories. What I really like about these is they've linked 3 or 4 parables together on the same subject. And so like the Savior will be talking to the Sadducees and Pharisees, and he'll say, the kingdom of heaven is likened unto, and he'll go into the parable of the sower and the seed. Mm-hmm. Then he'll come back and he'll say, the kingdom of heaven is likened unto, and he'll go into the parable of the 10 virgins. Mm-hmm. And so what they've done is they've linked 3 or 4 parables on the same subject together to really help your kids learn those stories. And it's really fun to watch them pick up and learn those stories. Well, anyway, people kept writing in and saying, can you do more? Can you do more? So then we did a series on the Old Testament. And we've done Abraham and Isaac, Samuel, Daniel, Esther, Elijah, Ruth, Moses, down on through those stories. And most people, we've done some surveys, and it's been estimated that only 10% of the people have read the Old Testament from cover to cover. Would you guys agree with that?
Gosh, I wouldn't know. I've read it all, but...
Yeah, that's good. I've tried, actually I have read it all, and it's really good. But what they've done is for the younger kids especially, like your 8-year-old, mm-hmm. he's not going to pick up Isaiah and start cruising through it.
Yeah.
Right. In fact, your 12-year-old and your 14-year-old, they're not going to either. I mean, if I have a 14-year-old, and we're lucky just to get him to read anything, but it's not going to be Isaiah. And so, anyway, that's the Old Testament. Well, then people kept writing in, and they loved it so much. They said, can you do more? Can you do more? And there was such a demand that we did a series on the heroes. And they've done Columbus, Edison, Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln, Pocahontas, Florence Nightingale, and now we've done 20 of these. What's really neat about these is, especially at this time, you know, in our society, they're trying to take God and religion right out of the schools, right out of the country. They don't want you talking about it or anything like that. This shows Washington kneeling down by Potomac praying and asking for the Lord's help. It shows Lincoln praying to the Lord have him help heal the nation and bring the nation together. It shows these men's belief in God. It shows like Lincoln's focus on honesty, Edison's persistence. And it goes through all these people's lives, and they're very, very good, but it shows their religious beliefs and their convictions. And so people have been really excited about that. The last 2 series that we've done, because that's basically our animation that we have. We have 2 other series, and you might have seen these. Have you seen the new Gordon B. Hinckley movie?
Yeah, remember we saw the signs at Desert
Oh,
Blood.
yeah, that's right. And
Yeah.
I think there was like a billboard up or something like
Yeah,
that.
did you actually purchase that and get it? Do you have it in your home?
No.
Well, what I'll do just for taking a minute today, I'll actually give you that one for free, because I told you I'd give you a free one.
Nice.
Even if you don't get anything, that's cool. I'll still give you the free one. But what we've done is we've done a series on the modern prophets, and they've gone through each of the prophets' lives. And they run from about an hour to an hour and a half long. And you know, when you read the Priesthood and Relief Society manual, how they have the bios of what they've done, well, they've just gone in and reenacted and gone through a bunch of different stories from their lives, so your family can see those. But one of the things I really like about this is their families have actually played some of the parts in the movies, and they've used their journals, and they're very, very accurate. But one of my favorite ones is on David O. McKay. And I don't know if you can see this or not, but this is David O. McKay's son. And he's a doctor, and they went to him and they said, hey, can you play this part? And he says, nope, there's no way. I don't want to do it. I'm busy. I don't want to do it. And his wife says, well, that's fine. You can sleep on the couch. And if you don't want to do it. So he had a little motivation there, so he decided to do it. Well, when they did the release, I went to the release, and he got up and was talking about it, and he got really emotional, teared up a little bit when he was talking about it. But he says, I learned more about my dad by doing this movie than when I was actually growing up in his home, because it was like clean your bedroom and do the dishes and how's your grades and stuff like that. And so it really is moving, and you'll really love these as they go through, especially your older kids will really like these. And the last series that we've done is on the docudrama, The Restoration. It goes through all the church history sites. Do you guys like history very much?
Yeah.
Yes.
You do? Have you been to some of the church history sites?
Mm-hmm.
Have you? Which ones have you gone to?
Well, we went to Nauvoo back in 2002. And
That's cool there, isn't it?
Was it when we went to New York?
It was a couple years after that.
Did you take your family with you? Or just you guys go?
Yeah, the kids were along.
Yeah, one of the things that's been really cool is, like last year I was able to take my kids back to Nauvoo, and we went to all the places. Well, what's fun is for family meeting, we'll pull this up and it'll have all the places that you went in Nauvoo. John Taylor's house, Brigham Young's house, the mansion house. You get to see all that stuff on here, and it really reinforces the stuff that you learned there, and it's really, really a neat series. So basically, that's the series that we have. There's 8 series: Book of Mormon, New Testament, Old Testament, Heroes, the Modern Prophets, and the docudrama. And just a couple of things that we've added new from maybe when you heard about them before. The first thing that we've done is every one of our movies has a quiz on it. So after you watch the movie, you can do the quiz, and it would be all right. I'd just like to show you kind of how those work. Is that all right?
Sure.
Okay. The adventure quizzes. Select. And we're just going to do level 1. Hopefully you'll find that to be the easiest one here. And then we're going to do the King James Version. If you want to borrow these to your friends that are non-members, they have the NIV on there for them. But anyway, on the first question here, it says, Jesus taught that only the righteous will be resurrected, all people will be resurrected, only Christ will be resurrected, or no one will be resurrected. But let's say that your 8-year-old, he doesn't know the answer, but your 12, 13, or 12, 14, and 16-year-olds, they do know the answer. Mm-hmm. So what you can do is you can come down here to the scriptures and hit the scripture button, and it'll actually pull up the scripture so they can read the answer there. But for your 8-year-old, what you might want to do is actually hit the video, and I'm just going to hit this and kind of show you what it does, but it helps to answer the question.
Last year I lost my husband, and still I am drowned in grief. Help me, Jesus. Give me peace.
Here is peace. The time is coming when the dead shall hear the voice of the Son of God and live.
My husband will live again?
I tell you, all that are in the graves shall come forth. They that have done good unto the resurrection of life, and they that have done evil unto the resurrection of damnation.
All right, so from that, we kind of know the answer. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down. We know that all people are resurrected. And so we hit select there.
Yes.
And Jesus comes on and says, good job. If you miss it, Satan comes up. He's got his little horns. He says, I'm just joking. It doesn't do that. It just says, oops, try again, and then you can go back. What's really fun about this is you can go through, and as you as you do the quizzes, you can really gauge what your kids know and kind of get a feeling for whether they understand those principles or not. And what's fun is it keeps score. So as you go through, if you use the scriptures or the video button, then it deducts points. And your kids will want to get 100 on this. And we've had a lot of kids that we've tested this out with them. They'll get between 30 and 40%. And this is active members of the church that go to church every Sunday. They'll get between 30 and 40%. We'll have them watch the video one time, and they'll jump to 90% after watching the video one time. But one day I was out knocking doors. I was down in Houston, and this guy is out watering in his garden. And I go up to him and I said, "Hey, we're with Living Scriptures." And he goes, "Hey, you know, we already have them. We're not really interested in getting any more because our kids are older," kind of like your situation. Yeah. And so I said, "Well, we got some brand new things. I'll give you a new one." And the Joseph Smith movie had just come out, so I told him I'd give him the new Joseph Smith movie for free. And he says, "That's fine." So we go in and we sit down. Anyway, we pull out the quizzes and we start going through the quizzes. And I told his kids, I said, "If you can answer all these questions just off the cuff," and I pulled out one of the new DVDs I knew they didn't have, then I said, "I'll leave. But if not, then your dad's going to have to think seriously about getting these." And so anyway, we put them on. We start going through. And his kids were missing questions right and left. And this stake president, you should have seen his face. He was like the color of your shirt, just bright red. He was so embarrassed. And what had happened is when they were in college and he was getting through school, his wife went and bought these and came home and said, "I bought the Living Scriptures." And he's like, "We're students. We can't afford this. There's no way we can do it." And she says, "You know what? I want them. I've had them growing up, and I really want to have them." And she says, "So we're definitely going to do this. You're going to have to reconcile yourself with it." So anyway, after I showed him the quizzes, and he had them all on VHS, had bought them all, he decided what he was going to do is he leaned to his wife and he said, "Hey, you know those new couches you want?" She says, "Yeah." He says, "We're not going to get them." He says, "We're getting these on DVDs just so we can get the quizzes." And so they bought the complete package again. And that's one of the things that we found. 40% of the customers that we have right now have already gotten something from Living Scriptures, and they like it so well that they're like, "We want more." And so 40% of our customers have already gotten some of our stuff, and people, like I said earlier, just keep writing in and saying, "Can you do more? Can you do more?" Because there's so much negative media and influence out there. And you know, the kids, they don't really care what they're watching. They just want to be entertained. And when you put this on, you know that it's going to bring the Spirit into your home, and it's going to really help them learn those stories. If you guys were to have these in your home, when do you guys think that you'd use them the most?
Maybe, well, probably family home evening. They might help out with that.
Yeah, a lot of people love to use them for family home evening. They're really good. Any other times that you can think of?
Oh, maybe like when you're getting ready for church on Sunday morning or something. Would be nice for that.
I don't know how it is with your family, but most families that we go to, you know, if they have church at 9 o'clock, then you have from 12 to till they go to bed. And if you go to church at 1 o'clock, then you have that whole morning. You know, what do you do with that? Because I don't know, you guys are probably the same way as us. We say no movies other than church movies. And you know, they can only watch Johnny Lingo and the 10 Cow Woman so many times, you know. And so what a lot of people will do is they just do our Tape of the Month program, but it gives them something to watch on Sundays to help keep the Sabbath day holy, and also for family home evening as well. But they have the quizzes, and they're really, really fun. You can learn a lot from them. But they also, each one of our movies comes with a coloring activity book. So they have crossword puzzles, word searches, dot to dots, all kinds of fun things. And your 8-year-old's on a little bit different plane than your 16-year-old. So at the beginning of the book, it's stuff for younger kids, and then it goes to stuff that's for older kids at the end. They have crossword puzzles, word searches, and things that be more stimulating for them. And so each movie comes with one of those. The other thing I was going to tell you about that people have been really excited about is we have a brand new website. It's called the LDS Family Fun site. And on that site, what they've done is they have 52 family home evenings on there. So you can go in. I don't know how you guys are, but do you ever, I'm sure you have family home evening, but do you ever have a hard time coming up with good ideas for family home evening?
Yeah, I mean, you know, you usually think about it last minute, and then you just kind of get together and you get what you get, you know. Yeah,
my wife says it's a good thing I'm a salesman, because she just says, "Okay, your dad has a lesson," and then I get to come up with something. I mean, that's about half our family home evenings. And some of them are okay to do that way. But one of the things that on this website, they have 52 family home evenings on there that you can download. So if you have a specific subject like faith that you want to focus on, you can go in and look at that. But it has all types of different things. Then it has activities, games for your family home evening. I mean, I don't know that your daughters are into like doing treats for family home evening, but they have treats that are specific to help tie down the principles. They have quotes from the prophets. Basically, everything you need for family home evening is right there on that website, so you get access to that as well. We actually were talking to a lady a couple weeks ago that's been using this, and she says it's worth the price of our Tape of the Month program just for that resource, because in 2 or 3 minutes you can download a complete family home evening and have it to bless your family. Plus you get the other stuff, and so that's a new thing that we've added in there as well. Well, let me just show you really quickly how the program works. So we have the Book of Mormon series, we have the New Testament series, we have the Old Testament series. Can you slide that down there for me? Thank you, Ms. Jensen. And then we have the Old Testament, Modern Prophets, and then we have the docudrama of the Restoration. So that's all 8 series. If you want to do our program, we call it the Big Mama, the whole enchilada, the full meal deal. It's all 8. The way it works is you pay for 3 DVDs each month. It's about $90 a month on that program. And then each month they send you 3 DVDs. So first month you get 3 from the Book of Mormon, second month 3 from the New Testament, down on through like that. Then we have what we call our simple, basic, easy program, and people really love that program just because it's so simple, basic, and easy.
Yeah.
And on that program, you pick your favorite 4 series, and what they do is you get 1 DVD a month. So the first month you get a Book of Mormon, and it's about $30 a month. Second month, New Testament. Third month, Old Testament. And then on the 4th month, people usually either go with the Modern Prophets or the Hero Classics series. And it doesn't really matter to me. If you were to get started with the program today, do you think you'd be more interested in the full meal deal with the $90 a month, or do you like just the simple, basic, easy program where you just get 1 video a month at around $30?
Wow. I mean, I like simple, but $30 a month just sounds like a lot to, commit to every month.
So what you guys are saying is definitely the 90s out?
Oh, yeah.
Definitely the 90s out.
Yeah,
all right.
I mean, the economy these days, I mean, expenses are just so high, and, things are tight, it's...
Definitely. That's one of the things we were extremely worried about. In fact, when we have about 150 students that are out doing this during the summer, and I mean, if they don't do well, then they don't get to go back to school, And so one of the things that we've done is we've put together the best program that we've ever put together, and I'm going to actually show you the bonuses in just a second, and you guys can pick which ones of those you like. But what we've done is we've made this special better than any other time, and the reason we've done it is because we were really worried about the economy. But one of the things that's been really interesting that we found is we've gone out is when the economy gets rough, where do people turn? And when things kind of get down,
it seems like people either turn really stronger to unbelief, or they turn stronger to God.
They turn.
It's like things get better or worse.
Yep. I remember after 9/11 happened, for the next year and a half, the economy just went in the tank. All of us are worried. We're collecting guns and food, and we're worried the world's going to come to an end. And one of the things that happened is the economy was the worst. We'd seen it drop way off, and during that year and a half, Living Scriptures did better than it has ever done. And the reason is because people started looking at things that mattered the most. They started weeding out maybe the more expensive dreams or the extra texting minutes on the cell phone or going to the movies. And they really buckled down. We need to focus on our family. And so that's one of the things that we found this summer. And I think between the special that we're running and people getting their priorities where they want to have them, it really has been something that people have been excited about. So what I can definitely tell, $90 a month, we're going to rule that one right out of the box. One other quick question I had for you. Most people are mostly interested in just the scriptures and the animation. Did you have either one of these 3 series that you did like out of the Heroes, the Modern Prophets, or the docudrama of the Restoration?
What do you think?
Well, I have to be honest with you. I'm just worried our kids, our girls especially, are getting a little older. Are they gonna... I just can't imagine them sitting down and watching animation. But at the same time, I'm not sure if they're going to want to watch, church history.
Yeah. Well, I'll just tell you my experience and what it's been. My brother-in-law had 6 kids, and he was a seminary teacher. And one of the things he told me is he says, I will never have the Living Scriptures in my house. He's kind of a gospel purist, and animation scriptures didn't really mix with him. And I'm like, that's no problem. And so it was just something that we decided not to talk about. Well, one day he came and he had his 6 boys. They come to our house, and he's getting ready to leave, and we put in the Prodigal Son and the Good Samaritan movie, and they watch them, and then they drive home. And I go to work, and I come back. When I get home, he called, and he says, I just called to eat crow. And I'm like, I would wondered if he'd hit something on the road on the way home. I didn't know what exactly had happened. But he said, on the way home, he says, my boys told me the story of the Good Samaritan and the Prodigal Son, word for word. He says, we have family home evening. We pray as a family. We go to church. He says, I'm a seminary teacher, for heaven's sakes. And he says, they've never picked the stories up like that. He says, I want to get a complete set for my house and a complete set for the Institute. And so he bought them for his seminary group. And one of the things that we found is that it really makes it go down in a non-threatening way. It kind of candy coats the scriptures, if you will, and it makes it easy for the kids to swallow. Your 8-year-old, he will eat this up. He'll love it. Your 12, 14, and 16-year-olds, they will watch these on Sundays, and I promise you, after a few months of having these in your home, they will be quoting the lines from these movies just like they do the Disney movies, or just like they do some of their other favorite shows, but it'll be from the scriptures. We're sitting there one day in my house, and my little daughter comes to the table, and she has a tank top on, and we have a rule, you know, we want sleeves, trying to be modest. Well, she has a tank top on. I'm like, hey, Shelby, where'd you get that? And she says, oh, my friend gave it to me. And my son, who was 13, he says, Dad, you know what it reminds me of? And I'm like, I have no idea. And he says, it kind of reminds me of Jezebel in the Elijah story, because she wears a little thing like that, and she's back behind this thing. And I was like, yeah, it kind of reminds me of that too. Maybe, Shelby, you ought to go change that. But what was interesting is how many 12, 13-year-old boys would bring up something from the scriptures in that situation. The reason they brought it up is because that's what they watch. I mean, that's what we watch on Sundays. That's what we watch for family home evening. And
yeah, it's hard to sort of get, you know, gospel in your heart if you only ever talk about it at church every week, you know.
Yeah, it really is. And one of the other things,
I can see that.
I knocked on this lady's door in Oregon one day, and I was talking to her, and she said, I am so mad at you. And I'm like, I had no idea. I didn't know how she'd heard about my reputation, but she was upset. And what basically she said is that 4 years ago, a Living Scripture person had come by, and she really wanted to get these for her kids. And she said, but money was tight. I didn't know that we could afford it. And she said, I didn't do it. And she says, guess what? Now it's 4 years farther down the road. She says, I don't have any more money than I had then. And guess what? My kids are 4 years older, and we still do not have these. And she was in about the same exact situation as you. Her kids were just a little older than your 8-year-old, but they'd gotten up older. For your 8-year-old especially, the sooner you get these, the more value you're going to get out of them, because you'll watch them over the next, 15 years. The biggest problem you'll have when you get these is your kids will fight over who gets to take them to their house. And that's the honest truth of it. Your kids will want to have these when they leave, and they're going to fight over who gets to take this set with them. It'll be something that your grandkids will honestly watch as they go down the road. One last story, and then I'll show you how the bonuses work. We had a guy that came to that I met, and he came up to me and he says, I got to tell you a really cool story. And I was like, all right, let's hear it. And what basically happened is he says, I was not a member of the church, and he says my girlfriend was a Mormon, and one day she was sick, and he said I went over to her house. But before he got to her house, he told me, he says, I have to give you a little background. He says, we used to fight about religion. I wasn't a member, she was. We fought and fought and fought. So we just decided to disagree, and we'd just keep our own opinions. So religion we didn't talk about. He says, I go over to her house. She's sick, and she's watching Abraham and Isaac. She's watching Abinadi and King Noah. She's watching these animated movies. He says, I sit down and watch one. And he said, the first one that we watched was Ammon, Mission of the Lamanites. And he says, I really felt something when I watched it. So I said, can we watch another? Then we put in another one, we watched that. And he says, pretty soon I watched 3 or 4. He says, I'm a senior in high school, and I'm sitting here watching these animated movies. He says, I am crying. And he says, why am I crying at this animation? And she says, you know what? There's a couple people you need to talk to. So she got the missionaries to come over a little later on. So they came over, and he says, I felt the same exact feeling as when I was watching the movies as when the missionaries came. Anyway, to make a long story short, he joined the church. When he did, his family completely disowned him, said, you know what? if you're going to join that church, we don't want anything to do with you. And you hear about stories like that, but to hear him tell it was kind of heart-wrenching. Well, anyway, to make a long story short, if it's possible at this point, he comes to our company. He's before his mission, and I tell him, we put him on one of our teams because he loved our product so much, it had done so much for him. But what I did is I played a little dirty trick on him. I put him on a team with 5 returned missionaries because I thought I want to get some good influence for him. So he goes out and he decides during the middle of summer he's going to go on a mission. So he comes home, goes on his mission, and I'd kind of forgotten about it. Well, one day we went to a friend's party, and we get over to the party, and this guy comes up and he shakes my hand and he says, you know, who are you? And I'm Shane Weiser. And anyway, he was a seminary director at Utah State University. And he says, well, what do you do for a living? And I told him, oh, I work with Living Scripture. He says, can I tell you the cool story? I'm like, sure. So anyway, he proceeded to tell me how one of his daughters had kind of gone off the deep end and done a lot of things that had given her a lot of heartache and pain in her life. And anyway, he said what happened is she met this young man that turned her life around. And I was like, oh, really? And I didn't really know where the story was going or why he was telling it to me. But he says, that young man joined the church because of your DVDs. And then he told me his name, and I knew him. It was Adam. That had worked for me. And anyway, he'd come home from his mission and met this girl. They'd fallen in love. And he says, last week they got married in the temple. He says, I am so thankful for that product and what it did to bring him to the gospel. He said he did it in a way that was non-threatening. So to answer the question about your daughters being, 12, 14, 16-year-old, will they watch? I promise you, they'll watch them. They'll use them on Sundays. For family home meeting, you'll use them. They will get into it just as much as, in fact, your husband, you'll come home, you'll catch him watching the Tree of Life. I promise you, that will happen. But let me just show you really quick. So the way the Tape the Month program works is you just prepay for the first Book of Mormon one today, and then you get that in about 4 to 6 weeks. And then the next month you get a New Testament, the next month you get an Old Testament, and then the 4th month you can either get one from the Hero Classics or you can get one from the Modern Prophets. Out of those two, which do you think you'd rather have?
What do you think?
I don't know, probably something for us would be...
I agree.
This is really good and I really love them, but this is what I do. So the 4th month you'll get one from the Modern Prophets. Basically each month you'll just get one, pay for them as you get them. No interest, no finance charges. Now this is the best part. I'll just show you the free bonuses because like I said, we're running the biggest special ever and you can tell me which ones you like. Is that okay?
Sure. What do you think?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll look at them.
Okay, good. Well, let me just, like I said, show you the free bonuses. The first thing I'll do is I'll show you the kids package. Remember that no matter which package you pick, it comes with the coloring books. And there's no copyright laws on those. And one of the things you'll really like is you can use them for family home meeting. The other thing that's really cool is honestly you can take him for your 8-year-old to color maybe he's perfect and doesn't need to color. But a lot of people will use them to color a picture of Jesus during sacrament meeting if they need to do that. Some families aren't really into that and don't like to color, but that is an idea for you. But what we've done is the first thing in the kids package is the kids' 10 Commandments. And this little boy Seth grows up in this little Israelite village. And the reason we did this series is we went around and we started asking people to name the 10 Commandments. And so what I want you guys to do right now is actually tell me the 10 Commandments. I'm just joking. I'm not going to put you on the spot.
Okay, I'll do it.
No, you probably can. But one of the things that we found is that most families with the mother and dad and all the kids can only get between about 4 and 6 of the 10 Commandments. And that's fine if you're not breaking the other 4 because you don't know about them, okay? But what this does is it goes through, this is for your 8-year-old and your youngest daughter will watch these two. But he goes through and he learns the 10 Commandments. It's really, really fun. And then when they're done, he'll know them. He'll be able to just rattle them off like that. And I think the funniest one in there, I was a little concerned about how they were going to cover the adultery one. And one of the guys comes up to his mother and says, I'd like to sing with you. We could make beautiful music together. And she says, well, my husband only likes me to sing with him. And so he tries to get her to sing. And so that's the way they cover it. So it's done tastefully, okay? So it's not going to give you any issues. You need to stay awake at night worrying about explaining. So anyway, that's the first thing. The second thing is what we call family hour stories. And these are stories of patriotism, honesty, courage, love, obedience. What I really like about this series is these are great for your 8-year-old to listen to and your 12-year-old as well. but these are even good to listen to when you're traveling in the car. But my favorite story is a nickel's worth of honesty. And this little boy is growing up during the early 1900s, and he's supporting his mother. His father had passed away, and he's selling papers. And he's like, extra, extra, read all about it. So it's kind of like the old-time radio with actors and actresses and all kinds of sound effects. And he's out there, extra, extra, read all about it. And this guy comes up and says, I'll take one of those, boy. And so he gives him the money, and he leaves, and he goes, did I give that man the right change? And he's counting out the change in his hand. And he goes, Mister, he says, here's your nickel. I didn't mean to take it. And the guy goes, oh, I thought you were just like all the other boys that did that to make extra money. He's like, oh, no, I'd never take anything that wasn't mine. That'd be stealing. Well, the guy was so impressed with his honesty that he pulled him aside, gave him $5. And that's in the early 1900s when $5 meant something. And eventually invited him and his mother to help come take care of his sick wife and put the young boy through school. And he became a doctor, all because of a nickel's worth of honesty. Isn't that a cool story?
Yeah.
And so, anyway, there's a whole bunch of different stories: patriotism, courage, honesty, sacrifice, obedience. So that comes with the kids package as well. Then the last thing that we've done is, this is on the Book of Mormon. And there's 24 CDs that go all the way through the Book of Mormon. So the way it starts out is Lehi will say, Nephi, where's Laman and Lemuel? I dreamt a dream. He's like, I don't know, Father. I'll go find him. And so he goes, and they come back, and he goes through the tree of life with them. And when he gets done, Laman and Lemuel are like, oh, Father, it's just a silly dream. And he's like, Laman, Lemuel. He just lays into him, you know. Well, anyway, it goes through the whole Book of Mormon like that. Do you guys have a hard time getting your kids to go to bed on time?
No.
They do.
We beat them up enough times a day.
Yeah, it's no kidding, but nightly beatings. Well, what we did to kind of settle down on the beatings so we didn't go to jail is we tell our kids, you go to bed on time, you can listen to one of these. And they will learn the Book of Mormon. I mean, it just reinforces everything that you're teaching them, because it does in a way that's really non-threatening to them. It's really cool.
So it's not word for word.
No, it's just
so
all acted out.
So do you guys make those church history ones? Because like I remember my grandpa, one time had given my parents, like when I was just a little kid, given these cassettes.
Yeah, did you listen to those?
All these cassettes, and would listen to those.
Did you like them?
Yeah, it was funny. I remember there was like one where like Joseph Smith or something threw some food into his sister's eye, and she like starts crying.
Yeah, threw a pea at her.
Yeah, we'd always laugh at that, you know.
Yeah, it's exact same stuff.
All right.
Except for we just redone it, cleaned it up, and it's just really a cool bonus. And this normally runs for $222, and like the church history set runs for $322. And right now we've got so much other stuff. We're just giving them as free bonuses as part of our economy special right now. So anyway, so that's the kids special right there. You get the kids 10 commandments, the family hour stories, and then you get the golden plates. And then all that comes right up front with your first shipment. Then what I'll do is I'll show you really quickly the parents package, and we'll be done. Have you heard of Cleon Skousen before?
Yeah.
You like him, not like him? Where do you fit on the scale?
I don't know a whole lot about him. I mean, he's kind of like...
Well, you said you like history, right? He went over to Israel, and they did this in the 70s. And the reason it's really cool is because they go into the Dome of the Rocks, they go to Golgotha, the Garden Tomb, they go to all the places over there that you can't get into anymore because they're, got guys with M16s guarding them, and it wouldn't be safe. And so you get to go over and see all those places in the Holy Land. And normally this sells for $180, and then Cleon Skousen goes through the whole thing and tells stories from the scriptures about each of those places. And so for the parents package, that's one of the first bonuses that you get. So you get that for free. Then the other thing that we have is, do you like classical music?
Yeah.
You've heard of the London National Philharmonic Orchestra probably?
Yeah.
They went through and they did a series with Lex de Azevedo, and it's basically 6 hours of orchestrated hymns from the hymn book. And where people really like these is these are awesome on Sundays. You can put them on. There's no words to it. It's just nice, peaceful, classical music. I actually have a buddy that's a dentist, and I gave him one of these for Christmas. He plays them in his office, and he called me one day. He says, you will not believe this. He says, the Hymns of the Restoration's my non-member's favorite. Because he just has them on a CD changer and plays them. And they're like, that is really a neat song. Because they really do pack a cool spirit with them. And so anyway, that comes for free. And then the last thing that you get in the adult package is you get the Great Mormon Women. And what it does is it goes through all the leading ladies of the church. And you always hear about Brigham Young, Joseph Smith, the Runsworth Snow, all those guys. You never hear about their wives. And basically what happened with this series is we worked, and we tried to come up with 12 Great Mormon Women, and we finally just gave up, and we only did 10. I'm just joking. Actually, we've never done a set on the men because we couldn't actually find 12 Great Mormon men, so we just stopped it right at the Great Mormon women. But it starts off the Prophet Joseph Smith's mother, goes to his wife. You get to learn about Eliza R. Snow. Did you know that she was married to both Brigham Young and Joseph Smith?
Yeah.
Yeah, what's really interesting about that is Brigham Young had a little joke at the end. He says, "Too bad I won't be able to be with you in the next life." He says, "Joseph Smith's just a better man than I am." So it's a little polygamy joke in there. But one of my favorite stories is the story of Mary Fielding Smith, and she was Hiram Smith's second wife. His first one died, and after he was killed, the prophet, she took his 8 children across the plains. They had 7 wagons, 4 yoke of oxen, so they had a wagon that actually tied together. And they get out there and one of her oxen dies, and she goes up to it and she says, "This ox thinks it's going to get out of this trip by dying. It's got another thing to come." And Brother Jermaine comes up and he says, "I told Sister Smith she'd be a burden to the whole company, but she wouldn't listen." And she's like, "Well, I'm not giving up." And he's like, "Well, what are you going to do? Carry this ox to Upper California?" And she looked him right in the eye and she says, "Not one man here beholds the priesthood, and you have no more idea what to do than that dead ox." She says, "I want you to give my ox a blessing." He's like, "What? Administer to an ox?" He just out and out refused. So she gets her brother Joseph Fielding, brings him in, he gives the ox a blessing, ox gets up, makes it the rest of the way across the valley. And that's like a 2-minute little clip on over an hour on Mary Fielding. But you get to learn about just a bunch of great stories in here. And I tell you, for your daughters, they will love these stories. And once again, you'll go out into the car at night because your husband will come home, you'll hear it running, you won't know what's going on. You'll go out to the car, you'll see tears coming down his cheek, and you're like, "Man, he must have something horrible to confess. He's really in a bad way," and he'll be listening to the Great Mormon Women. I promise you're going to like it. So anyway, that comes with that series. So the way it works is you just pay for the first one today. It'll come in 4 to 6 weeks. I'll give you the Gordon B. Hinckley one today free, so I'll mark that one off. And then basically, you can have the kids package or the parents package for free when you get started with the program. Which would you rather have?
I think I'd kind of want to mix and match if I could.
Mix and match the two?
Yeah.
But we're really, I mean, we're not going to do anything. We're not even sure we're going to do this.
Not sure you're going to do it? You do like the product though? It's something you think you'd like to get eventually?
I'm excited about it. I'm impressed with it, but I have to ask $30 a DVD. That's a lot more than I can even go to Walmart and buy a Disney DVD for.
Yeah, I understand it. And you know, as we go around, people have that same, because everybody wants them. It's just whether they can fit the $30 in. And people do ask, why are they $30? The biggest reason is because, like all the Disney movies, they put them in the theaters, and everybody goes and they pay for all their animation costs in the theaters, right? And then what do they come out with? They come out with Pocahontas French fries and Nemo, toys and all this stuff. And then they put it out on video. And when it comes out on video, everybody buys it. They've already paid for their animation costs, and then they put it out on video, and it's just like icing on the cake to them. I mean, Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses, Catholics, everybody gets them. At Living Scriptures, we don't really have the option of putting them in the theaters to overcome our cost. And so, we did try that with Nephi and the brass plates. The only people that came were, the Mormons and the Jehovah's Witnesses. Because I think basically they think it's true too. They just don't admit it. Just joking. But, we tried the whole things. We tried knee fries and lemonade. And, it just didn't go over that well, We did have one thing that worked really good though. We got together with IHOP and we did atom on die omelets. That seemed to be kind of a hit, but I'm just joking. But anyway, our market is just really super narrow, and so we have to charge a little bit more. And the reason that they are $30 a month, and I tell you what, we have busted our tail at Living Scriptures. I've been there for quite a while, but we busted our tail to keep them at $29.95. And the whole time when the VHS came out, they were $29.95. And we know that that's the spot where people can do the program, is at $29.95. And now everything else has gone up. Gas has gone up, groceries have gone up, houses have gone up. Living Scriptures videos have stayed the exact same. Plus we've added the quizzes and all the other stuff. Plus we have all the bonuses that we can throw in, to make it even sweeter. But one of the things that I did want to tell you is people are concerned just like you, and I'll tell you how they've justified it, because that's what it comes down to. You've got to justify, put it in your budget. The way they've justified it is you guys buy your kids birthday presents and Christmas presents, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, you do. Everybody does.
Everybody does.
Yep. And I don't know how your kids are, but you know, you get stuff. And what people have been doing is they've been buying these, and then they use them as stocking stuffers. They use them in the Easter basket. They use them for their birthdays, and they just save them. They put the coloring book and the movie away, and they just use them for those times. And honestly, you won't spend any more than what you normally spend. The only difference is rather than buying them 23 pounds of candy and a pair of Levi's for their Easter basket, you'll buy them 23 pounds of candy and give them one of these. Because you're still going to do some of the other stuff. At Christmas, rather than trying to figure out what you're going to put in their stocking, in each one of your kids, you have 4 kids, you put one of these videos in there, and then that Sunday, you can watch The King is Born, you know, or you can watch the Easter story, or you can watch A Band-Aid King Noah. And honestly, that's how people have justified doing it. Because it is an expense, and I'll tell you straight up, it's an investment. It really is. I mean, it's $30 a month. But I promise you, it won't be one you'll regret. And when you get these and just get the tape each month and you pay for them as you get them, there's no interest, there's no finance charges, and then you use them as gifts, you won't spend any more money on your kids. It'll just switch a little bit for maybe something that's going to be in next year's garage sale or something that's going to be broke the day after you give it to them in their stocking. You see what I'm saying there? But I tell you what I'll do, because you kind of like, you said you like to mix and match a little bit. What I'll do is when you get started with our Tape of the Month program, I know you like this really well. Did you like this pretty good too? Not so much.
Not my
Okay.
first choice.
The Kids' 10 Commandments.
Yeah, maybe. What do you think?
Well,
Okay, I'm just gonna put that over there. Your son would really like those, but he's at the top age. Okay.
Okay.
About 10. That's not really that hip anymore. I know you like that. I know you like this. As far as this, how did you like the Cleon Scouser movies? Did you like those or not?
I don't know. I haven't ever seen them before, but it sounded like it might be.
I mean, if you have a problem with people cruising around in their 70s leisure suit, then this might be an issue for you. If you really love history and you're really into that, you'd love them. But let me show you one other thing. So what I'll do is you mentioned that your parents or your grandparents had the church history.
Well, they bought them for my parents for Christmas.
Oh, they had,
Yeah,
so you had
so
them.
we had them in the house.
But anyway, this is the church history. We've gone through and redone it. It goes all the way through church history, and you guys had mentioned that you'd been back to Nauvoo and stuff like that. Last year, I was lucky enough to take my family. We hop in the Bourbon, and we head out there. We have a DVD player in our Suburban because my wife had to have that. We did not turn on one DVD all the way there and all the way back. We started with number 1, and we listened to them. I have a 16-year-old daughter, a 14-year-old boy, a 12-year-old boy, and a 10-year-old daughter. We listened to the first 22 on the way out and the way back. We had 3 stories that we heard when we were in Nauvoo that weren't in this series. There was a story about John Taylor, and there was a story about Wilford Woodruff, and there was one other story that we heard when we were back there. Every other story we heard in this series, and it is awesome. And what I'll do, just to make it worth your while to go ahead, is I'll throw in the church history, the Book of Mormon, the Great Mormon Women, and I'll throw in the hymn classics. And so basically the way it'll work is when you get your very first video in 4 to 6 weeks, you'll get all of this, this, and this. And then if you want to do it on a credit card, one of the things the company lets me do is if people just have hit your debit card or your credit card each month, then I can throw in an extra bonus for that. I'll actually throw in the Scouser movies. And so you'll get all those for free, plus the coloring books, and then you'll just get 1 DVD each month. And so basically, like I said, we'll throw all that in, and then all you need to do is I just need to have you fill out right here and here, and we can get you started with the program.
Wow, this looks like a big commitment. You sure we wouldn't want to just like borrow our neighbors' ones or something like that once in a while, and have the kids covered that way? It just seems like a big commitment for us right now. I mean, we don't usually ever like make a decision right on the spot.
that's true.
Yeah, I think...
As I talk about it and think about it,
I think the first thing on people's minds when we come by, is no one ever expects us to just show up on their door. No one's really ever thought about it. But one of the things I was going to tell you that I think is just really, really interesting is as we go around and we talk to people, you never know which video is going to have the biggest impact on your kids. One time when my daughter was younger, I went home and she said to me, she says, "You know what, Dad?" She says, "I want to watch the one where they stole the necklace." I'm like, okay. So we start looking through all the videos, and we cannot figure out which one they stole the necklace in. Finally, we get down, and it was the conversion of Alma the Younger, when he was going around terrorizing and wreaking havoc. And that's the one she wanted to watch. But one of the things that I have to just tell you, this is one of my favorite living scripture stories of all time. We're sitting at the mall, and this mom comes up, and she starts telling this story. Tears come to this lady's eyes. She is full on bawling. Before she left, all of us were. But one of the things she said is, she says, I just got to tell you this story. She says, my son was coming home from school, and one of the neighbor kids pulled him in. The kid was a couple years older than this little boy 7 years old, pulled him into the house and showed him a Playboy magazine, showed him the pictures, showed it all to him. And she says, my little boy came home, and he was crying, and I went into the room, and I said, hey, what's the matter? And he told me, this little boy pulled me in, showed me this picture, and he says, you know what, Mom? He says, I felt the same dark feeling that Joseph Smith felt before the first vision in the video. And he says, I knew it wasn't good, so I came home. And she says, what is that video worth to me? She says, what is it worth to me to have him walk out of there and not have that issue? And you know, I'm not saying that if you get these, that you're going to have a rainbow over your house and that roses are going to spontaneously bloom in your front yard. I'm not saying that at all, because they're not. But the thing is you will have these, you'll watch them, and they'll be a great tool. And you know what? You could borrow them from your neighbor, and honestly do that if you decide not to get them. That's fine. But if you have them in your home, you never know which one's going to have the impact. Because like if that lady would have borrowed them from her neighbor, chances are she wouldn't have had the Joseph Smith story in her house. He wouldn't have got to see that. And I promise you, at the end of the day, this will be something that your family will use over and over and over again. And like I said, you'll use them on Sundays. You'll use them on family home evening. And with the websites and all the other stuff that come with it, is something you guys will really use over and over again. And like I said, normally we don't really throw in the church history as a bonus. Sometimes we do. But what I'll do is I'll throw in all three of these. This runs for $322 if you were just to buy it. This runs for $222, and this is about $110. There's about $200 worth of coloring books, and this runs for $180. And so what I'll do is I'll just throw all that in. You'll have all that to start watching and using with your family, and I promise it won't be something you'll regret. So I guess the big question is, which one of you guys has the best handwriting?
Oh, she does for sure.
So let me just show you what we've done. So you're getting the Book of Mormon, New Testament, the Old Testament, and then you're getting the Modern Prophets, and then that comes the 49 DVDs, and then it's $37.75 today. It'll never be any more than that, and you're just going to get one every 4 weeks, and then this is the total right here, okay? And then these are the bonuses that you're getting. So you're getting the church history, the Great Mormon Women, the Family Hour stories, and you're getting the Visit Israel, and then I put down the coloring books. And then if all this information's right here, then I just need to have you okay it here and date it there. Perfect. Thank you. And then this is the technical page. And what this page says is that you promise to pay for them. They promise to send them. The periodic billing statement, you'll just get one every 4 weeks. And that's what the minimum payment is. There's no interest, there's no finance charges, there's no delinquent charges unless you don't pay for one. Then it's just on that one DVD. If you write a bad check, it's $25, but you're doing it on your bank card like we discussed. And then number 14 here is the toughest one. It says that you promise that you'll have family home meeting every single week now that you have the material. Can you promise to that?
Wow.
You can do that?
Okay, sure.
All right. Just need to have you okay it there and date it there. Thank you. And then I'll give you your copies. All right. And what I'll do is I'm just going to put your paperwork in here. And basically what this is it just says, in the inside cover here, it has all the negative aspects of the media. And then it has the names of the DVDs you're getting right here. And then on the back, it has ways people like to use them. So your paperwork's right in here. And like you said, you know, family home meetings and keeping the Sabbath day holy, that's the way that most people justify this. Most people make it just a Sunday rule to watch stuff like this. And one of the things we've found is that parents say, you can't watch bad stuff on Sundays or you can't watch non-church stuff, but then they don't really provide them with something to take its place. This, you'll come home from church, your kids will be sitting there watching the videos. when you come home from your church meetings and stuff like that, they'll have a pile. They'll be watching them. One last story. My son, when he was 11 years old, decided he wanted to fast. And so he was about 4 hours out from completing his fast. He was just dying because he only weighs 67 pounds. I mean, he's little. And so anyway, he says, Dad, I'll be back in a minute. And so he goes in, draws a bath of water, takes a portable DVD player, and gets enough movies to get him through the 4 hours of living scriptures and sat and watched them. And it really, really did help him. And I don't know whether your 8-year-old's fasted yet, but that might be an idea you might want to throw in for him as well. But anyway, here's your paperwork. And I just want to tell you, it's really cool to come into homes where people make not just these products, but products like these available to their youngsters. And I promise it won't be one you'll regret. You'll consider this one of the best decisions